Hydrogen production. Hydrogen is made at large scale today, mostly from natural gas for use in chemical processes such as oil refining and ammonia production. About 1% of U.S. primary energy use, or 5% of U.S. natural gas use, goes to hydrogen production for chemical applications. A variety of hydrogen production processes are economically available today, including thermochemical methods, which are used to derive hydrogen from hydrocarbons, and electrolysis of water, during which electricity is used to split water into its constituent elements, hydrogen and oxygen. Future potential methods of hydrogen production involving direct conversion of sunlight into hydrogen in electromechanical cells or biological hydrogen production are being researched at a fundamental science level. In this section, we describe methods of hydrogen production, current status of, and projections for technical progress and its economics, including capital costs for production equipment, conversion efficiency, and the levelized cost of hydrogen production. Thermochemical production methods. Hydrogen is made thermochemically by processing hydrocarbons such as natural gas, coal, biomass, or waste in high-temperature chemical reactors to make a synthetic gas or syngas composed of H2CO, CO2, H2O, and CH4. The syngas is further processed to include the hydrogen content, and hydrogen is separated out of the mixture at the desired purity. Figure 1 shows the process for typical hydrogen production plants based on thermochemical methods. Side note, calling things syngas feels so cyberpunk to me, I'm not sure if I love or hate it. We live in the future. Steam reforming of methane. Catalytic steam reforming of methane, the main component of natural gas, is a well-known, commercially available process for hydrogen production. In the United States, most hydrogen today, greater than 90%, is manufactured via steam reforming of natural gas. Hydrogen production is accomplished in several steps: steam reforming, water-gas shift reaction, and hydrogen purification. The reaction for steam forming is not something I will be reading out loud. It's endothermic and requires external heat input. Economics favor reactor operation at a pressure of 3 to 25 atmospheres and temperatures of 700 to 850 Celsius. The external heat needed to drive the reaction is often provided by the combustion of a fraction of the incoming natural gas feedstock, less than 25%, or from burning waste gases such as purge gas from the hydrogen purification system. After reforming, the resulting syngas is sent to one or more shift reactors where the hydrogen concentration is increased via the water-gas shift reaction. The gas exiting the shift reactor contains mostly H2, 70 to 80%, plus CO2, CH4, and small quantities of H2O and CO. Hydrogen is then purified. The degree of purification depends on the application. For industrial hydrogen, pressure swing absorption systems or palladium membranes are used to produce hydrogen at greater than 99.999 purity. The energy conversion efficiency, hydrogen out of HHV divided by energy input, HHV, of large-scale SMRs is perhaps 75 to 80%, although 85% efficiencies might be achieved with good waste heat recovery and use. That's out of date. I understand that they're closer to 90-95% nowadays. SMRs have been built. Oh, we are in the future. Looking forward to hearing more about the dragons that are Amazon and Google. I love it. Never deal with a dragon. That's the rule. Back to non-cyberpunk. SMRs have been built over a wide range of sizes for large-scale chemical processes such as oil refining. Steam reformers produce 25 million to 100 million SCF of hydrogen a day. In energy terms, this is enough hydrogen to power a fleet of 225,000 to 900,000 hydrogen fuel cars, each driven 1,100 miles a year. I like how wide of a gap that is. 200,000 to 900,000 just tells us that 20 years ago, efficiency was not even close to nailed down. These systems consist of long 12-meter catalyst-filled tubes as they operate at temperatures of 850 Celsius and pressures of 15 to 25 atmospheres, which necessitates use of expensive alloy steels. Capital costs of around 20 million SCF of H2 a day. Steam reformer plant, including the reformer, shift reactor, and PSA, are about $200 a kilowatt of H2 output for a 200 million SCF day plant. Capital costs are estimated to be about 80 kilowatt hours of H2. If that's correct, this is suggesting that the cost of electricity is a little more than 2.5 times, or I guess it's about exactly 2.5 times the cost of the capital. So 20 years ago, the argument was if you have hydrogen, the majority of the price will come from electricity. Refinery type. A high pressure, high temperature reformer can be scaled down to as small as 0.1 to 1 million SCF a day, the scale needed for producing hydrogen at refueling stations. But scale economies and the capital cost are significant. Capital cost is 750 kilowatt hours of H2 at 1 million SCF a day, and 4,000 kilowatts of H2 at 0.1 million SCF a day. At small sizes, a more cost-effective approach is to use a lower pressure and temperature reformer with lower cost materials. SMRs in the range of 2,000 to 120,000 SCF of H2 a day have been developed for use with fuel cells, and these have been recently adapted for standalone hydrogen production. In these systems, the heat transfer path is curved to make the device more compact, and the reformer operates at a lower temperature and pressure of 700 C in 3 atmospheres, which relaxes material requirements. Estimates of mass production costs for small fuel cell type SMRs indicate that the capital cost for hydrogen production plants is in the 0.1 million to 1 million SCF a day range, which would be 150 to 180 kilowatt hours or dollars per kilowatt hour of H2. Assuming that 1,000 units were produced, costs are given on a higher heating value basis, and for comparison, do not include hydrogen compression, storage, or dispensing to vehicles. The capital costs in dollars per kilowatt of hydrogen production are similar for fuel cell types, small reformers, and conventional one-of-a-kind large reformers, assuming that many small units are built. Energy conversion efficiencies, or 70 to 80%, are possible for these units. Partial oxidation of hydrocarbons. Another commercially available method for deriving hydrogen from hydrocarbons is partial oxidation. Another commercially available is partial hydrogen. Here, methane or some other hydrocarbon feedstock such as oil is oxidized to produce carbon monoxide and hydrogen as shown in the reaction. This reaction is exothermic and no indirect heat exchanger is needed. Catalysts are not required because of the high temperature. However, the hydrogen yield per mole of methane input and system efficiency can be significantly enhanced by the use of catalysts. A hydrogen plant based on partial oxidation includes a partial oxidation reactor, followed by a shift reactor and hydrogen purification equipment. Large-scale partial oxidation systems have been used commercially to produce hydrogen from hydrocarbons such as residual oil for applications such as those in refineries. Large systems generally incorporate an oxygen plant because operation with pure oxygen rather than air reduces the size and cost of reactors. Small-scale partial oxidation systems that use oxygen and air have recently become commercially available, but these systems are still undergoing intensive research and development. Partial oxidation systems are under development by Arthur D. Little Inc. and its spin-off company Epix, and by Hydrogen Burner Technology. Small-scale partial oxidation systems have a fast response time, making them attractive for following rapidly varying loads, and these systems can handle a variety of fuels, including methane, ethanol, methanol, and gasoline. Because POX systems are more compact and do not require indirect heat exchange, as in steam forming, it's been suggested that the cost of small partial oxidation systems could be less than those of small steam reformers. Although the partial oxidation reactor is likely to be less expensive than a steam reformer vessel, the downstream shift and purification stages are likely to be more expensive. Developing low-cost purification technologies is key if POX systems are to be used for small-scale, stationary hydrogen production. Another approach is to use pure oxygen feed to the POX, which incurs high capital costs for small-scale oxygen production, but eliminates the need to deal with nitrogen downstream. Oxygen enrichment of incoming air is another way of reducing, but not eliminating, the amount of nitrogen innovative membrane technologies may allow lower cost oxygen for POX reactors. Gasification of biomass, coal, or wastes. In these systems, solid hydrocarbon feedstock such as biomass, plant materials such as agriculture residues, forest product wastes or energy crops, coal, or wastes are gasified at high temperatures to produce syngas, which is then processed to increase the hydrogen fraction and purificate. Let's try that again. In these systems, solid hydrocarbon feedstocks such as biomass, plant materials such as agriculture residues, forest product wastes, or energy crops, coal, or wastes are gasified to high temperature to produce syngas, which is then processed to increase the hydrogen fraction and purified to produce hydrogen at the required purity. Coal gasification was the preferred method of hydrogen production in the United States earlier in this century before the availability of low-cost natural gas, and it's still practiced in China and Europe. Initially, this was done through the KT Kupers-Totzek method. Although newer coal gasification options are now available, biomass gasification systems resemble those for coal. But biomass gasifiers operate at lower temperature and the cleanup requirements are different because biomass contains little sulfur. Gasifiers for municipal solid wastes have also been developed for use in electricity production and can be adapted for hydrogen production. Biomass and waste gasifier hydrogen systems have been commercialized, but probably could be in a few years, because all of the component technologies are available. The capital cost for large gasification systems is about $700 a kilowatt of H2 for biomass and $800 a kilowatt of H2 for coal. Although improvements in high-temperature gas separation technology may reduce these costs, conversion efficiency from biomass or coal to hydrogen is 60 to 65%. Williams et al. Have compared the cost of hydrogen production via large-scale gasification of coal, biomass, or wastes. The hydrogen production cost is generally higher for biomass, coal, or waste-derived hydrogen than for hydrogen produced via steam reforming, although development of novel membrane separation materials may narrow the cost gap. So this has $700 to $800 a kilowatt. And here we're looking at like 1 to 180. So gasification is significantly more expensive than steam reforming, apparently. Technologies for sequestering carbon during thermochemical hydrogen production. We are very, very early in this. I'm going to say about a third of the way. Okay, we're a little more than a third of the way. So, technologies for sequestering carbon during thermochemical hydrogen production. It's been suggested that carbon dioxide could be captured during hydrogen production from hydrocarbon feedstocks. The CO2 could then be sequestered underground in secure geological formations, such as deep saline aquifers or depleted gas fields. This would allow continued use of fossil primary sources and to produce transportation fuel with greatly reduced emissions of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Steam methane reforming plants or coal or biomass gasifier plants could be configured to allow separation of and capture of CO2 at low additional costs. Various estimates show that carbon dioxide capture, pipeline transmission and sequestration underground would add only a few dollars per gigajoule, or perhaps 10%, to the delivered cost of hydrogen transportation fuel, assuming CO2 separation, pipeline transport, and sequestration were done on a sufficiently large scale. So, for example, studies carried out for the European Union community indicate that the cost of CO2 pipeline transmission over several hundred kilometers to an underground injection site would add less than $1 per gigajoule to the cost of co-produced hydrogen. The cost of injecting CO2 into a deep saline aquifer or depleting gas well is likely to be an order of magnitude lower than transmission costs. The incremental cost of separating CO2 during hydrogen production from natural gas is estimated to be less than $1 per gigajoule. In some cases, it may be feasible to produce hydrogen via steam reforming at the natural gas field and to re-inject byproduct CO2, gaining a credit for enhanced gas recovery. In this case, sequestration could improve the economics of hydrogen production via a byproduct credit for the extra natural gas produced. Because fossil fuels currently offer the lowest hydrogen production cost, it's likely that they will continue to be used for hydrogen production where available. Thus, carbon sequestration may be a key element of a future hydrogen energy system based on fossil fuels, but with very low carbon emissions. This is particularly true in countries such as China and India with huge coal resources and rapidly growing transportation energy demand. This is interesting. It suggests using natural gas and then taking the CO2 and just sequestering it, which I guess makes sense considering economics if you want to look at it that way. Unfortunately, there's a lot of natural gas loss due to the fracking methods of extraction. There doesn't have to be, but they're just not well regulated enough to fix it yet. So electrolysis of water. In water electrolysis, electricity is passed through a conducting aqueous electrolyte, breaking down water into its constituent elements, hydrogen and oxygen, via the reaction 2H2O equals 2 hydrogen and oxygen. Any source of electricity can be used, including intermittent sources such as off-peak power, solar, or wind sources. Various types of electrolyzers are in use. Commercially available systems today are based on alkaline technology. Proton exchange membranes, PEM electrolyzers, have been demonstrated, are in the process of being commercialized, and hold the promise of low cost. PEM electrolyzers also have the advantages of quick startup and shutdown, and the ability to handle transient operating conditions as well. Experimental designs for electrolyzers have been developed using solid oxide electrolyte and operating at temperatures of 7 to 900 C. High temperature electrolysis systems offer higher efficiency for converting electricity to hydrogen, because some of the work to split water is done by heat, but material requirements are more severe. Electrolyzers are typically 70 to 85% efficient on higher heating value basis. Hydrogen out over electricity in. They're higher nowadays. It's been 20 years. Technology progressed. Water electrolysis can be used to produce hydrogen over a wide range of scales, from a few kilowatts to hundreds of megawatts. Capital costs for electrolyzers have been estimated by various authors. The capital cost of alkaline systems vary with size, although there is little scale economy above sizes of perhaps a few hundred kilowatts. Hydrogen plant costs for commercially available large-scale alkaline electrolysis systems are currently $500 to $600 a kilowatt, with projected costs as low as $300 a kilowatt. Thomas and Kuhn have estimated recently that mass-produced small PEM electrolyzers might cost less than 300 kilowatts of H2 out, even at sizes of only a few kilowatts. The production cost of electrolytic hydrogen is strongly dependent on the cost of electricity. Electrolytic systems are generally competitive with steam reforming of natural gas only where a low cost of 1 to 2 cents per kilowatt hour power is available. For example, excess hydropower. Another niche market for electrolytic hydrogen may be remote sites where conventional fuel cells are expensive, owing to high transport costs, and wind power can be used to produce hydrogen. So, summary. Economic comparison of hydrogen production methods. I don't want to read this. I fear it's already too far out of date, but we'll give it a shot. In figures 3 and 4, we compare the installed capital cost and levelized production cost of hydrogen for various production methods. Capital costs are given in dollars per kilowatt of hydrogen output, computed on a higher heating value basis. SMRs offer the lowest capital cost over a large range of scales. This levelized cost of production is seen to depend on the cost of the primary energy feedstock and the scale of production. In regions such as North America, where low-cost natural gas is widely available, steam reforming of natural gas is usually the least costly option. In China, where natural gas is limited, coal is used for hydrogen production. In Brazil, where significant quantities of off-peak hydropower may be available at about a penny a kilowatt, electrolytic hydrogen production might be economically competitive. Although production cost is important, it is the delivered cost to the customer, including the cost of transporting the hydrogen from the production plant to the consumer, that determines the least cost hydrogen supply option for a particular site. This is discussed in later sections. Experimental methods of hydrogen production. So a variety of novel approaches to hydrogen production are being investigated in the laboratory. For sampling of the latest research in this area, see recent conference proceedings. New production techniques fall into several general categories. Man, my mouth is getting lazy. Look at this. You spend all pandemic trapped into your house not talking to people. You forget how to talk for a while. Innovations in technologies for deriving hydrogen thermochemically from hydrocarbon feedstocks. Innovations in techniques for deriving hydrogen thermochemically from hydrocarbon feedstocks includes advances in reforming technologies such as sorbent enhanced reforming. What is a sorbent? I've never even heard this word. Sorbent and absorbent. Okay, so sorbents absorb things. Today I learned. So, innovations and techniques for deriving hydrogen thermochemically from hydrocarbon feedstocks include advances in reforming technologies such as sorbent enhanced reforming, which reduce costs by combining reforming, shift, and purification stages, catalytic cracking of natural gas, and advanced systems for producing hydrogen from coal. Advanced membrane technologies for gas separation, for example the ion transport methane system, under development at Air Products and Chemicals Inc., Allenwood, PA, can simplify the design of hydrogen production systems based on partial oxidation of gasification. Also included here is development of advanced gasification and pyrolysis. Pyrolysis? We're going to go with advanced gasification or pyrolysis systems for coal, gas, biomass, or wastes, and novel biomass to hydrogen methods. Advanced electrochemical routes to hydrogen production include advanced electrolysis systems such as those using proton exchange membranes or solid oxide materials as electrolytes. Also included are photocatalytic and photoelectrochemical systems, which use sunlight to drive hydrogen producing reactions in wet electrochemical cells splitting water, HBr or HI. In addition to thermochemical water splitting methods are under investigation for use with high temperature heat. See 3 for a description of the principles involved. Biological hydrogen production. Biological hydrogen production includes controlled production of hydrogen by algae or bacteria in light-driven bioreactors. Some of these alternatives, for example, sorbent-enhanced reforming, gasification of biomass or wastes, and PEM electrolyzers could probably be commercialized within a few years. Longer-term options include photoelectrochemical methods in which the short lifetime of the cells caused by the corrosion currently limits their practicality, and biological hydrogen production, in which the lifetime of a hydrogen-producing organism and the efficiency of converting light to hydrogen are unresolved issues. This is correct. PEM electrolyzers are now on the market at scale. I don't know how readily accessible they are, but they definitely exist.